Welcome to another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, we're walking the beat with both Barrie and South Simcoe Police, talking about the provincial inspection on police integrity that will be launched in response to the corruption charges against several Toronto police officers, and we'll learn about a new initiative in Barrie related to pedestrian and cycling safety. Stroud Arena needs some fixin'. Town of Innisfil hoping to get some help through the Craft Hockeyville program. Redwood Park Communities offering a win-win opportunity as it continues its work to provide safe, affordable, and hopeful housing. And the Barrie Colts gained some more ground in terms of playoff positioning last weekend. We get the conversation started after this. Both Barrie Police Chief Rich Johnston and South Simcoe Police Chief John Van Dyke have endorsed the provincial probe into the integrity of all police services in Ontario. This after several Toronto police officers were recently charged with corruption. We welcome Chief Van Dyke back to the program. Chief, your thoughts on what happened in Toronto and on this provincial probe as well.
So first of all, as Chief of the South Simcoe Police Service, I share the concerns raised by people across Ontario in response to the results of the Project South investigation. These allegations are deeply troubling. When organized crime finds its way into policing, the damage goes well beyond those involved and erodes public trust in the police. These findings challenge the trust police rely on every day to serve and protect their communities, and corruption has no place in policing. It directly undermines public confidence, and protecting public trust is non-negotiable for the South Simcoe Police Service and for me as Chief. And that's why the South Simcoe Police Service supports the independent review and any gaps that could undermine public trust.
And not only the public impacted by this and their view of police, but the men and women underneath you at South Simcoe Police. It affects them too, doesn't it?
It does.
We talk all the time in every walk of life, in every business endeavor, there are always bad apples. But somehow when it's police, it takes on this much greater impact for everybody involved.
It does. You know, we police by consent. We police by the consent of our municipalities and the people that live in them. And they uphold us to a higher standard. Police are entrusted with enforcing the law. We are given exceptional powers to do that. But when we do that, we're expected to act and conduct ourselves accordingly with the highest degree of professionalism and integrity. And when we don't, we let down our communities.
And it's not like you're not keeping an eye out for this or keeping track of this. There are things in place to try and weed this out ahead of time, but it's not always possible. There are things that happen very, very quietly.
That's true.
So what do you have in place at South Simcoe Police to try and keep this from happening and keep ahead of the curve, I guess?
So like I said, maintaining integrity and accountability within the service is key to maintaining everything we do. So we have clear codes of conduct. All members are guided by a strict professional and ethical code of conduct aligned with standards set out in the Community Safety and Policing Act that ensure professionalism. Ethics and transparency are the core of our policing functions. Recruitment efforts. We carefully recruit and select individuals who demonstrate integrity, professionalism, and a commitment to public service from the very start of their careers. As part of the process, we conduct thorough background checks, and every candidate undergoes a comprehensive background screening to ensure they meet the highest standards for ethics, character, and suitability for policing. And I want to emphasize that we hire people of character.
Still, there's always that prospect down the road where somebody could have all the bases covered initially, but somewhere down the line, something happens. How do you keep on top of that? Or can you until it happens?
Well, it's very difficult because you don't have a crystal ball, you don't have a radar, you don't know what's necessarily going on completely within your police service. But we do things like, regular training and education of our members, ongoing education on ethics and human rights and professionalism standards, performance reviews and check-ins. So regular evaluations of our members, audits and assessment to ensure members meet operational, ethical, and professional standards. We also lead by example. So the senior leadership team, including myself, the deputy, and our senior team, including our managers and supervisors, we model ethical behavior and hold ourselves accountable to the same high standards expected of all members or higher standards. And we always collaborate with our oversight bodies, working closely with external agencies such as our Police Services Board, which provides us oversight and governance, the Inspector General, the Law Enforcement Complaints Agency, and the SIU to review policies, practices, and incidents as they arise. And we always look for continuous improvement. We are always looking to refine our policies and practices so they're reviewed regularly and updated based on lessons learned, community feedback, and investigative findings.
What do you know about this inspection process? Have you been in contact with anybody yet? Do you know when it's going to come to South Simcoe?
So I don't think all the details have been flushed out as of yet. I know that the Inspector General is going to appoint an independent person to lead the review. Obviously, there are a lot of police services that have to be inspected, 43 municipal services plus the Ontario Provincial Police. So the details have not, I don't think, been fully flushed out yet.
Horrible that you have to go through this, but coming out the other end, things are going to be better, I would think.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, you outlined what the service is already doing to try and keep this from happening. Is there anything you're double-checking or rechecking or anything new you're doing as a result of this while you're waiting for the inspection to take place?
So we have been working on that, and with the assistance of my deputy chief and senior people, we're putting together a plan for the board that we will take to the board at our next board meeting. It's better to be proactive and get ahead of this and have a look at, there are 5 pillars of this independent review, being supervision and span of control, screening and vetting of police officers, access to police databases, evidence and property management practices, and substance abuse and fitness for duty. So we will be examining those pillars proactively and coming up with a plan to address any deficiencies that we may find. And again, have a plan in place before we're inspected, as opposed to being given the results of the inspection and then have to work backwards from there.
On the whole, it sounds like you're pretty happy with the staff you have, the officers, and all the behind-the-scenes people, that you don't have a lot of trouble down there.
We have great people that work for the organization, and as chief, I'm very grateful for that. I'm also very thankful for the hard work that they do every day to keep our community safe. I think the public needs to take confidence in the fact that we have a great police service with great members that are out there every day with the best of intentions to do their job professionally and with the highest standards of ethical conduct.
And to that end, because we talk very often about community policing and getting out and engaging with the community, and the last time you were here about a month ago with the deputy, you focused on that and how you're getting out into the community and you're reaching out and you want the community to reach back to you.
Yes, absolutely.
Chief Van Dyke, thank you so much for this. We'll look forward to the results of the inspection, and sounds like you're going to come through with flying colors.
We hope so.
Police in Barrie looking to make the streets safer for pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers. It's launched what it calls Project Lima to address concerns about driving behavior, visibility, and overall safety at busy intersections. Barrie 360's Ian McLennan gets the gist from Barrie Police Staff Sergeant Angie Butler and Constable Taylor Collins.
So I'm going to throw out first, what is Project Lima? How did this come to be?
So I previously worked as a paramedic. So I attended numerous pedestrian struck collisions at that time. Once I transferred over to Barrie, I was kind of seeing a relation that there's just a high prevalence of pedestrian strucks. So what we did was officers deployed in the beginning of January, and we were targeting traffic safety blitz within the city of Barrie under the operational name Project Lima. Basically, we're trying to figure out what the hotspots were in Barrie. We worked well with our research team and data team. They were able to extract data backdating to 2023 on where kind of the hotspots are for pedestrian strucks. So we have 3 core areas in the city. That'll be the Bayfield Street corridor, the downtown core, so the Dunlop Street area, and the Yonge Street and Big Bay area. So essentially, we're trying to identify the high-risk areas through data analysis, focused traffic enforcement, and then education for drivers and cyclists in the city of Barrie.
So high traffic volume areas in those parts of the city?
Yes.
What's the goal here? The metrics that you say, hey, you know what, this is working. I mean, it's a combination, right? Enforcement and education?
Absolutely. It is a combination. That's our commitment to the city of Barrie, that we want to increase the number of occurrences of pedestrians and cyclists getting hit. So what we've done as a team, we've looked at the data, the research since 2023, and the number of occurrences, and like Taylor mentioned, the areas that those traffic violations were happening. And we've combined it with enforcement and education to the public. So the public will often see pamphlets that we've created describing what Project Lima is, what our goal is, what our commitment to the citizens of the city of Barrie is, and how we're going to tackle that. And it's not just all about enforcement, Ian. Like I said, it is education, and our peak times begin in April for these collisions that happen. 60% of all of our occurrences with pedestrians and cyclists happen from April to November is our busiest peak
When
times.
the weather's good?
Weather time, and it's also dependent on the time of the day as well, right? We get some incidents in the morning when there's rush hour around lunchtime and into the evening hours. Those are our peak times up until about 8 o'clock in the evening when that sun starts to set, you know? So we look at that. I mean, we've had officers on our shift that have educated people, have taken the time to not just lay the ticket, but rather educate them about what happens when the light's out and how to fix it. Because I'm sure you're no different than the rest of us when you're driving down that dark road and you see a vehicle coming towards you and you can only see one headlight. You mistake what that vehicle is and where the vehicle is on the position of that roadway, which is a lot of the reasons why pedestrians and cyclists are getting hit.
And with pedestrians and cyclists too, obviously responsibility of a driver, to keep their eyes focused on the road and, be aware. But what about the responsibility of pedestrians and cyclists too, to make sure that they're following the rules of the road too? How critical is that? I mean, you got to work together.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's also very critical. And I guess that's part of the education piece here as well. So we kind of branched out from just pulling people over for the one headlight. We're looking at a broader spectrum of that as well. And that includes rolling through the stop signs or rolling through red lights. And then what speaks directly to your question there is like the tint that we're looking for on the windows. So when people have a high level of tint above the legal limit, that actually reduces that eye contact between the driver and the pedestrians on the crosswalk. So that eliminates that ability to happen entirely. So we're also targeting vehicles in that sense, but definitely everybody stopping at the intersection. Those rolling reds, those rolling stop signs are very critical as well.
As the city grows, obviously, and now we've got bike lanes, so I think there have been more cyclists out there too. So is that a component too, that cyclists stay in the bike lane and follow those rules?
Yeah, that's a really good point. And like Taylor just alluded to as well as yourself there, Ian, it is important for pedestrians and cyclists to be aware of their surroundings as well, right? Like was mentioned, this is a shared responsibility, and we ask that you wear reflective clothing, that you are, before you enter those intersections and cross those lanes of traffic, if need be, that you are aware of what's happening. It's a lot harder to stop a moving vehicle, which is a pretty heavy piece of machinery, than it is for a pedestrian and cyclist to be able to stop. And safety is our utmost concern. That is it's one of our initiatives and our goals, part of our strategic plan with Barrie Police, and that's what our commitment is. And we want to do what we can. And on the enforcement side and education side, it's important to know too that we have made connections with our provincial crown attorney, and if someone is given an infraction for that headlight, we do put on it, because again, it comes down to education. So a measure that this is successful is that we reduce the amount of collisions with pedestrians and cyclists, and that there is none, right? And then we educate the public. So we have made arrangements with our provincial courts to be able to put on that traffic notice that if your headlight is fixed at the time of trial, that this charge can be dismissed. So our aim is most importantly the safety of everybody involved, drivers and pedestrians and cyclists.
Is there a timeline for this project? And do you go back and analyze the data too? Is that a constant?
We're going all year round because, like I said before, between 2023 and 2025, the percentage of the number of incidents have increased. And we want to be able, through this initiative, Project Lima, look at go back and look at our data at the end of the year through those peak times, hours, and days of the week if we have made a difference through our education and our enforcement of it.
What do you hope the public takes away from this? Obviously, an understanding too, but, their understanding why the police are doing what they're doing.
I just hope that they know that we're on their side, essentially. We're there not as a punitive measure. We're there just to educate and protect them. And hopefully the streets of Barrie become more safe through this initiative.
Innisfil Council has approved $1 million in funding for emergency repairs to the Stroud Community Centre and Arena and is hoping to recoup some of the costs through the Craft Hockeyville program. Our Julius Hearn had a chat with Mayor Lynn Dolan and Councillor Kevin Isis.
I know last week was a big decision for Innisfil Council. A lot of funding going towards this Stroud Arena project with a lot of obviously upgrades to be done with this facility. What exactly was found that is prompting the extra work to be done for people that don't know?
Sure. So all of our facilities are inspected monthly, and during the last regular inspection of the Stroud facility, they noticed an anomaly with one of the interior walls. And upon further inspection, it was creating a problem. And because we care about safety, number one, we instantly closed it and got a structural engineer to do a larger investigation. We still are not 100% sure how big the problem is until they get in and rip some more things back and have a better look at it and have the engineers do further investigation. And that information will come back to council. But we authorized what the engineer felt was a reasonable amount of money to deal with the problem.
Was there any warning signs or anything like that leading up to when the issue was found, or was it just regular inspection work?
I think it was just our regular inspection work. They hadn't noticed anything. Nobody had noticed anything before that. It impacts the actual ice surface and the community room above the ice surface, but we've been able to keep the curling club and the library, who are also attached. It's one big complex, and we've been able to keep those two pieces open.
So in making the funding decision last week, what led you to have the number be over 1 million?
Well, wanted to give them enough money to move forward, but also understanding that there is asbestos in that building as well. So that creates higher labor content when you're doing the work, because all of that needs to be abated. So we didn't want to say, fix it for whatever much, but we wanted to give them enough to work with so that they could make the necessary repairs. Kevin, do you have anything?
So council is aware that that building is ending its lifespan. So we're in that, that area of time where we haven't done enough investigating on the new facility, but we know this one is. So we're hoping to be able to give it enough repairs to get us to the point where we can decide what's in the future, right?
Yeah, obviously it's an older building, over 50 years old. So
and maybe we find out in our investigation that, hey, we can make this thing last, even longer, and then that helps us plan for the next one.
Is there a rough estimate on when work may begin, or even how long it would take at this point?
So work has begun, but when did we put in what was the motion we said?
We wanted
an update.
Council wanted to discuss it further if the time interfered with the next hockey season. So, realistically, ice times would be booked in April, May, right, for the next year. So if between now and then they will determine if they can get it fixed in time, and if they can't, then council wants to have a discussion about that and see what the alternative plans would be and how long it will take to get it going again, right?
Yeah, you could argue this is the worst time this could have happened, considering what time of year it is. I'm sure a lot of people have Olympic fever right now, and hockey is more popular than ever with all the ice time. How is the town kind of reallocated all the bookings, whether it's ice time or even the community, center above the ice surface? How has the reallocation process been?
There's many groups impacted by this because the Stroud, that community center is the heart of the community. And so it's the hub where everybody goes. So it's definitely impacted the community a great deal. You're right. Everybody does have Olympic fever, but we're fortunate that this didn't happen in November. The fact that many of the hockey teams are ending their regular schedule and going into playoffs. And so we're seeing it's a bit easier to deal with at this time of year. But there's still like everybody from the Stroud seniors who play euchre in the community room. We have businesses and residents who use that community banquet hall from everything from artisan markets to all sorts of different things that it's used for. And we've had to find homes for them, allocating ice time in the other 3 ice pads that we have for our skaters.
I'm sure the news for families, especially parents of multiple kids playing hockey in a lot of cases in Innisfil. What's the reaction that you guys have gotten from other parents or kids that have even been affected, or just folks that use the ice pads regularly?
I think just talking with staff, there's been a really good working relationship between staff and our local user groups, understanding the situation. And there has been enough ice time in the other rinks to fill the need. Some inconvenience, obviously, around timing, right? If you're used to a certain time, you have to change. But as Mayor said, the demand is starting to on the downside with the seasons getting to the end in the hockey leagues. Thankfully, the library and the curling club were able to continue. The curling club is pretty unique, so that would have been a bigger blow to them as a user group. So the other user groups have adapted, and staff has been able to serve the needs of the town. So
I would say parents and kids have been pretty understanding.
Yeah.
They don't like it, but they understand it. And I think they appreciate that the town puts safety first. And I also think that they're reasonably happy with the communication that's coming out from staff, keeping them informed of what's going on.
We've also been able to see the town rally around the arena, right? We've had that petition come forward, which was great from at the council level to see that support. And now with the nomination of the arena for Crafts Hockeyville, there's been further rallying around that to try get some supplemental help to fix the arena through that great program.
Probably the biggest reason why I'm here today, because I saw you made a story online, the rally page, one of the first ones, if not the first, on that Craft Hockeyville rally page. And since then, we've seen maybe over 60, I think, stories also be added to that list, which is great to see from the community. How nice is it to have, the rallying around the arena and the folks, everyone sharing their stories and what it means to them and their kids? What does it feel like to have that be seconded by the community?
Yeah, it's been really heartwarming, but I'm not surprised at all because that's what Stroud is. Stroud, when we did an open house back in 2018 at the Stroud Arena about envisioning what could happen to that property, how it could be redeveloped if they wanted it redeveloped. And we heard story after story after story from grandparents, parents that now have their kids. Like there was a story about a young boy learned to skate there, and now he works at the arena. And just really great stories about how much it means. Somebody wrote that it's part of their identity, and it's Stroud's identity. And Stroud's very much like that. There's a real, I don't know if anybody measures this, but if you measured the amount of people who were born and brought up in a community and now they're raising their kids in that community, I think Stroud would be near the top of the list.
Of course. I'm sure you mentioned that one story. Counselors, any stories that stick out to you, whether it be from the community or even your own?
My fondest a memory, because we didn't play hockey in a league. It was more kind of backyard stuff, was the library. When my mother took me to get my first library card, and it was in that Stroud library part. And you walk through the door there, and it still looks very similar to the way it did 50 years ago, but it's just got that feeling, that this is home, right? This is our community hub. And, we've added that as the town has moved the farmers market there during the year. So it's not just a hockey thing or a winter thing, it's evolved into that meeting place for the community, and with the the skateboard track in the back and the ball diamonds back there. It's just where the community comes to get together.
How's the situation? I mean, you mentioned the rink times kind of being booked in terms of April and May for next year. How much effect does the closure at this point have affect the long-term booking in the next season or even beyond?
I don't think we're going to know that until we hear back from staff, whether or not how big a fix this is going to be and whether or not it will affect the next season. So we're in a bit of wait and see mode right now. And just, letting our leagues know that, we have a ice allocation policy, and it does prioritize local, minor associations, hockey and figure skating and such. And, we'll continue to follow that policy as we wait and see when we're going to be up and running in Stroud. But in the meantime, we're encouraging people to put their stories. The stories get the most points. So it goes stories, pictures, I think, and then comments. So the stories have to answer the 3 questions that you're prompted in the story. And then, but every little bit helps. Any picture that you've got would help as well. And we've both got a short runway. We were kind of late to the game. Other communities got a bit of a head start on us, and it closes March 1st. So we're really putting a push on. We figured if there was ever a year to do this, this is the year, because it's top of mind for everyone in our community. And I will point out too that I've had people in Cookstown reach out to me and say, how can we help? So while it's a Stroud facility and it's Stroud's heart, the rest of Innisfil is getting behind Stroud and supporting them with this endeavor, because we're all one big community.
And last one for me, if you had an elevator pitch, so to speak, to the committee that decides the winners nationally, even provincially, what would you say to them?
The Stroud Arena is like the poster child for what Craft Hockeyville is trying to achieve, recognizing the heart of the community and improving that, and just making all of Innisfil better. If you had to have a picture of what a community feel arena space is, it's Stroud.
And we really need to get it back open again. The community without it isn't the same. It's been a landmark in the community for so long, and we need those doors reopened again. And it's not just about preserving a building, it's about preserving a legacy.
Mayor, Councilor, really appreciate your time. Wish you best of luck with this project and with the Craft Hockeyville process.
Thank you, Julius.
Redwood Park community is already benefiting from the bond program it launched a year ago to raise funds for its many community housing projects, is getting an additional boost from one local investor. We're joined by Redwood's Tim Kent and Carolina Belmaris. You were here just over a year ago, really excited about launching the bond program, and now you're back, really excited again.
Yes, it's been quite the year, and our community housing bonds programs has moved. It started off slow, I gotta say, and there was a little bit of how are we gonna pick this up, and then incredibly we had an absolute angel in our community come in and inject a brand new level of energy into our campaign, and that is Dr. Brian Morris.
And who is this guy?
Dr. Brian Morris. He's a local physician and he's very well known. He's quite beloved because he's been around for such a long time and he has done so much in our community. And he also is part of Hospice Simcoe. And with his support, he basically offered us a matching campaign in which he's one of our original investors when our community housing bonds first came out. And he decided to come back and offer us a second round of investment with a kick. And what he's saying is, you know what? I am going to match up to $250,000 of all new investments that come from the community, which is absolutely incredible to us because that means that with his $250K and, if we reach that goal, $250K from the community, that's $500,000 of incredible funds that we get to use into creating a safe, affordable housing here in Barrie and the area.
And this started with an initial $250,000 from him.
Correct.
And he believes in you so much that he found another way to help out.
Yes, like by using that same $250,000 as an incentive for people to say, let me match up until this amount. And I mean, it's important to say that doesn't really change anything for the new investors in the sense that that's not going to impact the amount of revenue that you make annually. It's all used on the back end by Redwood in order to push forward our projects.
Okay, I want to talk some more about that after and how that works. We'll remind everybody of what's going on. Catch with this new incentive, though, is there's a deadline.
There is a deadline, and that is March the 2nd.
Okay, so you got some time to think about it quickly and then jump on board because it's really, really an important investment that you're going to make. How important is this investment? What are you going to do with all this money?
Yeah, it's a great question. We're super excited to share that even some of the funds that we've already been receiving in the investments, we've been able to move a project forward that we have in Midland of 15 units. And we're almost at the stage to be able to submit for building permit. We've got our site plan approval and the town is doing up the development agreement. And we've got another project in Aurelia on some property that we have there where we currently operate 4 units already, and we're going to add another 6 units there in a community hub space. And we've got a couple of projects here in Barrie that with the new funds that come in, we're going to jump on those right away and get them moving forward quickly as well.
And that's in addition to a couple of projects you've already got up and running.
Yeah, that's right. We've got 12 units of family housing for those that have been experiencing homelessness with their families that were previously in a motel voucher program. And that's partnership with the Salvation Army, and that's up and running and going smooth. We've got another 3 units that were created as well that we're doing in partnership with the Canadian Mental Health Association, and that's going. And so we can move very quickly at getting new units up and running when the funds come in.
What made you want to step up and do this? Because not a lot of people are jumping at this kind of an opportunity, but you kind of grasped it with every inch of your being.
Yeah, I think, my personal background, I came out of the investment fund industry several years ago before I had a epiphany in my life.
Yeah, we all get those, don't we?
So it was kind of a natural fit for me to be able to see how we could use community dollars rather than it being a donation from somebody. They can invest it in the work that we're doing to create the actual units themselves, where we provide the supportive housing and the transitional housing and supports, and it just seemed to me to make sense to create opportunity in our community for individuals instead of them investing money in a mutual fund at some big company in Toronto or Vancouver and then it being invested around the world. Why not invest right here in our own community to make our own community stronger and more resilient?
Are you finding that as you go along with this, that people's opinions are changing, that you're finding less of the not in my backyard kind of thing happening?
I think that's a tough question to answer. I think that we still have a lot of NIMBYism that happens, but we also have a lot of people that are seeing the difference that it's starting to make and seeing it as a positive. And so I do think we are seeing a shift. It's maybe not a shift as fast as we'd love to see it. But sometimes just, giving people the opportunity to see what kind of difference it's making changes people's minds, but that process takes some time.
All right, let's change some more people's minds and tell them how they can do that, how they can get involved. Let's revisit what you started a year ago. Tell us how it works, how people can get involved, and what the benefit is.
It is very easy. If you want to find out more information, all of the details are in our website, redwoodbuilds.ca. And you can download an investor package so that you can see all the details without having to invest yet. You can receive all the information. And there's also a way to contact us directly. I'm always there. I'm the one, it's me answering your questions. Like, it's not just, an automatic bot or anything like that. You're actually getting a person. And the way to do it is basically to make a decision that you want your money to be invested directly into creating the solutions that we all need to see here in the city. And this is something that the community housing bonds program itself has been working successfully for over 10 years all over Canada. And this is the very first time that this opportunity has become available in Barrie. And it is so valuable to us for people to understand that they really get a say. When you go outside and you see people struggling, or you are like, oh my gosh, somebody should do something about that. This is you. We're calling on you. You get to do something with it. And we have the plans, we have the projects, we have the process, we have everything. And all we need is just for our community to come along.
And the nice thing is, you've already outlined, if they hop on board in the next few days, they're actually going to double their investment without having to dig into their pocket for the doubling.
Exactly. You're doubling the impact of your money. And it doesn't have to be, we think about investments and people think about super large sums of money. It doesn't have to be that way. We try to make it so accessible so that essentially pretty much anyone in the community could at some point decide to go ahead with this, because it matters to us that these are projects that belong to all of us, and we all get this ownership and we get a say in what our city and our community gets to look like.
Is it private individuals? Is it corporations? A combination?
The people who are investing are mostly individuals, like it's personal investments by and large.
Yeah, and people just like individual investors like you and I, we want to make a contribution of $3,000-$4,000 to an RSP. Hey, great. I can do it with Redwood and see my dollars in action while earning a return. So, we're getting RSP investors. We're getting investors that just have some money that they'd like to put into something like this instead of a GIC at the bank. We do have a couple of businesses that have invested as well, and that's always great. Love that. Welcome that. Anybody and everybody, really, whether you're an institution, a business, a community group, or just an individual investor who's got a minimum of $2,500 to invest.
That's right.
It really is a win-win, isn't it?
It is. And I want to expand on Tim saying that, this is a way of making an impact, just to illustrate the impact that this makes. This past week, we had a beautiful thing happening at Redwood, and that is that 3 women with their children, 3 families, found permanent housing in our community. And these were women who were with us for a length of time in United House, which is one of our spaces for women and their kids. And they came to us after a short stay at the women's shelter, and they were escaping intimate partner violence. And when they landed with us, they didn't find just a place to stay. They found a support system. Our housing team is absolutely incredible. They were able to sort through paperwork, jump through all the hoops that you could imagine. And now 3 women and their kids get to have a permanent, safe place to call home that we also help furnish with the help of our furniture bank. And so this is the real impact. We don't just build buildings. Our entire organization is set up so that we can make this kind of changes happen.
And you want to make more of those changes happen.
Absolutely.
But you need some financial help to get it done.
Yes.
Are you looking for volunteers in other ways as well, people to come in and roll their sleeves up?
Yeah, we're always looking for volunteers, people that want to do some construction stuff. We've always got that as an opportunity when those projects come along. But if you're looking for something more regular, we've got our furniture bank. We've got cleaning of units that happen on a regular basis. We've got furnishing of units that we always are looking for volunteers to help set those units up and do changeovers. And so there's a lot of opportunity for that. And you can sign up to be a volunteer at volunteer@redwoodbuilds.ca and send an email. And also on our website, there's a link at redwoodbuilds.ca where you can click on that and fill in your information and say what kind of work you might be interested in helping out with.
All right. That's the place to start to get all your questions answered.
That's correct.
Thank you so much for doing what you do. It's such a wonderful project that you're involved in, and it's bringing so much to the community that we really, really need. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Barrie Colts still on a roll as the playoffs get closer. They've won 7 in a row and sit just 4 points back of Brantford for top spot in the Eastern Conference and first place overall. Here again is Barrie 360's Julius Hearn with Colts broadcaster Gene Pereira.
Another positive week for the Barrie Colts. It's kind of an odd schedule, too, because you go Thursday and then no games until the Monday holiday. But overall, a really nice set of 2 games for the Barrie Colts. 6-3 win over Kingston, 8-5 win on the road in Ottawa. Gene, it was really the third periods in both games that was kind of the story. 9 goals combined, a few empty netters between those 2 games in the third period. But what's different about this team in the final frame of the game over this course of the 2 games?
Well, I think just their ability to kind of, elevate their game, key points. And, again, Thursday against Kingston, the same thing. I mean, it's a Frontenac's team that's in a rebuild, but, they work hard and they're well coached. And, they pushed Barrie in that third period. And again, Barrie came out offensively. And against Ottawa, again, the same thing. The power play was really the difference in that one, coming up with 3 big power play goals. To break a 3-3 tie early in that third period that really kind of dictated that game. But the Colts' third periods they've been very good in the third period over this last while. And, again, there's still some points. Talking to Dylan Smoskowitz, he wasn't happy that, the Colts allowed Ottawa back into the game to make it 6-5 there before the empty net goals to put it away. But, overall in the third period, they're really strong. And I think it speaks about their ability to kind of motivate or to elevate their game when they have to.
I think it's in a bit of a contrast to last year, right? Because we saw a Colts team last season may have come out really hot in the first or second period, and then all of a sudden, the third period, they would just fall flat. Have you noticed that too? And if so, what really would be the difference there?
I think a big part of the difference is just when you look at the leadership of this team. I mean, you got guys like Cole Bowden that, up and down the ice, whether it's in the defensive zone, working hard. Emil Hemming has taken his game to another level. It's just a deeper roster that, they can put out shift after shift. And they're much more committed to the defensive side of the game this year. They take a lot of pride in the ability to keep the puck out of the net. And, you had 2 of the top teams defensively. That Ottawa team is the top defensive team in the Ontario Hockey League. And, anytime you're able to put an 8 spot on a team that's really good defensively, it really speaks highly of just how the Colts are able to generate offense. But the third period, their ability to shut down other teams, and then, the power play, which has been really good all season, I think 4th best coming into the weekend, and the Ontario Hockey League comes through again.
This power play was phenomenal this weekend. A perfect 6 for 6 across both games. What have you noticed that kind of maybe something that was a switch flipped for this team that to have a absolutely dominant special teams over the course of this weekend, or is this more of a continuation of what they've been doing all year?
You look at this power play, and usually you talk about a power play unit, but really the Colts have 2 power play units, and they've both been very effective. I mean, the first unit, obviously, you got a lot of the big guns out there, Cole Bowden, Emil Hemming, Keyshawn Aitchison. But this second unit has just been just as effective. Brad Gardner and, Ben Wilmot. And it's, that's been the big difference, I think, is that you're able to put two units out there that can really dominate, the full 2 minutes. And it's something that they've been really, effective with. And again, specialty teams are so important come playoff time because, when you get in those tight games, obviously it's an opportunity to get some offense going when you're on the power play. And his Colts power play has just been phenomenal here over this last couple of months.
Yeah, there's been a couple of players, especially over the course of this past weekend, that really stood out on the power play. Emil Hemming, he had 4 goals and 3 assists over those 2 games. Cole Bodwin, even if you go back to the last game against North Bay, where he had a hat trick, 5 goals and 8 assists in his last 3 games. But I did want to ask about Cole Emerton because he seems to be a guy that's really stepped up lately. He's gotten a lot more power play time. He was the first star of the game on Thursday against Kingston. What have you noticed about him and his role that's kind of elevated the second half of this season?
Yeah, you almost forget with he's a rookie out there, and for a rookie to kind of step in and play key minutes on the power play, it really speaks to just how much faith the Colts have in him being kind of one of the quarterbacks back there on the blue line during the Cole this year is just overall defensively as well. The Colts have added Parker Von Richter, and that's kind of lengthened their blue line, but Emerton just continues to be one of those guys that they trust, and on the power play, he's just smart. He's got great vision, and I think he's taken more shots, and he's got a great shot. Earlier in the year, he had a great goal in the slot on a big time hammer from the high slot on the power play, and it's one of the factors that his ability to distribute out there is key, but he's starting to shoot more, and that makes it harder for defending teams to play against.
I'm sure I've asked you this about Cole Emerton, but he's really the only guy that's from the Barrie or Simcoe County area that's on this Colts team. Does that kind of weigh on him a little bit, or does he kind of take that and run with it?
I think he takes pride with it. His father played with the Junior B Colts years ago. Chris Emerton was part of that Sutherland Cup team that that Barrie Powerhouse Junior B team that I think they went through losing one game in one season that had John Madden and just a powerhouse Junior B team that dominated for about 3 years there, and I think he carries that, and you can just see it. I mean, there's a lot of pride for these guys. They watched the Barrie Colts when they were younger, and Chris was one of those guys that just. He was the same way in terms of, he had some offense with him, but Cole is just at another level in his game. And, he followed in his dad's footsteps, but, it's just his ability to kind of read the game out there. And, it's a big part of the reason why they trust him on the power play is he's able to make that, that smart pass and that smart play. And defensively as well, he's really impressed me with, he's not a big defenseman out there, but he reads the play well, and he's able to use his body in a proper ways to get guys off the puck.
Yeah, it's been great to see the way that he's kind of evolved throughout his first OHL season. Meanwhile, this team, through 54 games this season, they're 37-11, 2-4. There's 14 games left. They're 4 points back of Brantford for top spot in the Eastern Conference. How much is that weighing on the team towards the end of the season?
Sometimes, Julius, you take a step back and you say, this team is 18-1-1 in the last 20 games. I mean, what a run that they've been on. And I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching staff and their ability to keep this team focused just on what's ahead, the game that's ahead of them, and not looking, every time I talk to Dylan Smoskowitz about their chances to win the conference, to catch Ottawa, which they've passed now, and they're 4 points behind Brantford. It's always about what their next game is, and win the day, and it's kind of been their motto, and I think it's kind of helped level them that they don't kind of necessarily look at the big picture, but just focus on what's ahead of them. And I think because of that, it's given them that success that they're not taking a step behind. I mean, you look at a weekend like this, and there's no doubt they had that game against Ottawa circled. Ottawa has been red hot, but Barrie again Thursday against Kingston. They did what they had to, and didn't look too far ahead and got the win against Kingston, and then moved on to the next one and focused on that. And that's what we'll do here again. The same weekend coming up. It's Owen Sound Thursday. Look at them; they've really struggled here, and but again, Barrie doesn't look past Owen Sound.
So I know that, you mentioned the Ottawa game was obviously circled on the calendars on Family Day, but the Brantford game on Saturday here in Barrie is one that we've had circled on our calendars since the last time the Bulldogs and Colts faced off, and that was the last time the Colts have lost at all. They're on a 7-game win streak as we speak right now. But 3 games in 3 days is going to be another tough stretch of a weekend. Home against Owen Sound, then at London, and then back home against Brantford on Saturday. How are you expecting this weekend to play out?
Yeah, if you look at it, it's a really tough schedule. I mean, you got to obviously you kick off Thursday at home, but then Friday you got to go in that London team. Yeah, they moved some parts at the deadline, but that's still a really good hockey team in London and playing on home ice. So that's going to be a tough test as well. And then you got to face Brantford coming in on a 3 games in 3 days. And Brantford team, they're just going to be sitting. They're going to be well rested for that hockey game against Barrie on Saturday. So it's going to be a really interesting test to see how this team is. But in talking to Dylan Smoskowitz about that 3-3 and then facing Brantford on the Saturday, he said, look, he goes, that's what we put in all the work for the week with, right? And get themselves that physically, working in the gym and working on the ice on off days and in practices, making sure that they'll be well rested and they'll have enough energy to get through those 3 games.
This team needs 10 points to clinch the Central Division. There's 14 games left. How soon do you think that happens?
Well, if you look at the way they've been rolling, I think very soon. I think it's going to be difficult for anybody to catch them because this team hasn't given any kind of signs of, taking the foot off the pedal. And when you're around the players, you can really see it. I mean, it's a team that takes pride, in their record, and it's a different level. I mean, Barrie had a really good hockey team last year, but I find this team a lot closer this season. And I think a lot of it has to do with the coaching staff, Patrick Sexton, Dennis Martindale, Connor Goddard, and of course, head coach Dylan Smoskowitz. They're kind of able to keep that, that positivity going, and they've just built a really close unit out there. And I mean, even the additions, Julius at the deadline, have just been outstanding. I mean, every one of them. Parker Von Richter, 15 points, I think, in 16 games that he's been here in Barrie. 4 defensemen logging key minutes. Ben Wilmot has just been outstanding. And then, Zabeski, again, you don't see the goals and the points, but when you watch his game, he's just a hard guy to play against, a big physical forward up there. And again, this team, they're just on a roll right now, and you can see that confidence with them that that they believe they're one of that they have a legit shot to win it all.
You mentioned those new faces. I do want to ask first, since the trade deadline, a lot of those guys coming out of the team right around the same time, if not on the same day. How easy was it for them to gel with the rest of the group?
I think that's a big factor, Julius. When you bring that up, it's always a good question, right? Is you make these additions and you got to make sure that they sit within the lineup, right? Because roles change after big additions. Guys that were used to playing power play time before may not get the same amount of power play time. Obviously, when you make those kind of trades, you're bringing in quality players, and they got to be able to fit in and buy into the new roles and the new teams and the rules that change for everybody else. But this has been, I think, one of the big factors last year, from last year. And it's not that the guys that came in didn't necessarily fit in, but it's just been a much better fit this year. And I think you see guys, that are just kind of willing to accept whatever role they get. And Zabeski and Wilmot, they kind of rotated between the top 2 lines there. And they just kind of go and do their part. Parker Von Richter, the same thing, And here's a guy that logged a ton of minutes, was the big guy on the point for Brampton, and he comes in and he fits right in. Right, you got Keyshawn Aitchison, who's kind of been that number 1 power play guy there, and Evan Passmore. They've been kind of the top unit defensively, but I think it's been a big factor with this team and why this team is doing so well, that they've been able to bring in 3 guys that, it didn't change the character. They just fit in really nicely, and I think that's a big part of the success.
Gene, always a pleasure. Thank you again.
Thanks, Julius.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Julius for their input, to Logan Miller for piecing it all together, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on Blue Sky and X at Barrie360, on our website Barrie360.com, and our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.